everyone, and welcome to I'm a Fan. I'm your host, Kim Eberly, and today I'm honored to have, for over 30 years, Sean Sweeny has been taking beautiful photographs, and at one point he was voted best photographer in Staten Island in the Arts and Entertainment polls on the Staten Island Advance. I know that Michael Falco is a former staff photographer of the Staten Island Advance and was one of Sean's inspirations. And I'm so happy to have you here. I'm excited to talk about your photography. I've scoured the internet, sort of like a little stalker,
Good.
looking at your photos. And I have to say, when I really started to get to know you is when COVID happened. So I want to start from that point,
Okay.
and we'll talk about that, and then maybe we'll go back. But
Sure.
I remember. Well, tell me about COVID and how it affected you, because
So COVID affected me, as a person. I have two kids. One was graduating high school without a graduation. One was graduating college without a graduation ceremony.
Wow.
So that I think about them.
Yeah.
But I also thought about the opportunities that there were. I'm not one to sit home. I'm never in the house. A friend of mine right now is she's undergoing through a lot of stuff, and her words to me a couple of years ago, well, it's life is outside.
Mm-hmm.
And there's no greater feeling for me than to close my door, put the key in, and not know when I'm coming back. And I'll always have a camera with me. So throughout COVID, I live alone. I knew I wasn't going to be going out catching the virus and bringing it home to someone.
Right.
So this city, as populated as it is, was vacant throughout COVID.
Yeah.
So I was able to jump on a ferry, not be within 50 feet of anybody, take my photos, run through the terminal, wait for somebody to open a door and swing through an open door.
That had to be so surreal.
It was surreal. It's surreal because I love this city, and I love the people of the city, and I love photographing the people of the city. But to be on these streets, one street after the other, empty, and see no one, it was extremely surreal. But you also couldn't pop into a store and get a Coca-Cola or something like that.
Right, so everything was closed down?
Everything was closed, signs in the window, gates down. So throughout it, I was able to get all over the city. I actually drove a few times, parked my truck, and jumped out. I kneeled down in the middle of, not taking my life in my hands, not putting anybody else at risk, kneeled down in the middle of 7th Avenue and photographed straight down 7th Avenue
Wow.
for block after block after block.
Wow.
There wasn't a single car or person. Turned around, did the same going back up. This is 7:30, 8 o'clock at night. Not a headlight, and surreal as can be, there's a man playing a saxophone. There's another man walking by, just completely painted in gold. And it's still New York City. We still have our characters out there, and they're still trying to make their dollar. But I was amongst them. It was.
It almost seems apocalyptic in a way.
Way apocalyptic. It had its moments of 9/11, post 9/11.
Yeah.
Early on, post 9/11 had its moments of post Hurricane Sandy, where you just there wasn't a meter made. There wasn't anyone.
Did you in that collection of photos? Did you save or do you have some favorite photos that you took during that time?
The
Because
downside
I
of me
have to
shooting,
say it's almost journalistic too.
it's extremely journalistic. The downside of my photography is that I shoot, keep going. So can I go back and find them? There's hundreds of them. There's probably 1,000 of them. I went to certain areas that I knew were iconic New York areas and waited for people to walk by when there were people with masks on, just to document that.
Yeah.
So I have lots of them. Some that I could say are my favorites. There's just when life opened up a little bit more. You can go to Washington Square Park and see two, I'd say adversarial individuals playing chess with their masks on, with their rubber gloves on.
Yeah.
And it was almost like being in an operating room watching this beautiful game of chess being played.
Yeah.
And, so at those points you decide, am I shooting black and white? Am I shooting color? How do I want this image to appear? So a lot of those things, when life was coming back, people holding hands. One of the most poignant photos that I took was a grandmother and grandfather FaceTiming their kids, and you could see it's like that's as close as we're going to get for a while.
Wow.
You know, for a lot of us, there were people that were at risk if they were affected by COVID, so you had to be more careful. So you saw a lot of that type of thing.
Yeah.
The distance, the people waving to people from from the first floor up to the third floor, knowing that that's as close as we can possibly get right now.
Yeah, it was a very trying time. But I also remember that, and I tuned in a few times when you did your live feed of taking photos of the sun rising.
Sure.
And I thought that was amazing because I know Lance Ray, another photographer, was out there too. I think you were you could have been on opposite ends of the beach. I don't know.
Probably. We hadn't run into each other. Right?
Yeah. But what was great and what I loved about tuning in with you was that you talked back to us.
Right.
Like we had a conversation. Yeah. And it was great because here you are. Well, tell us about that.
I'm quite a bit of a loner. I'm a I guess the word is that people saying now introvert, extroverted, introvert.
Yeah.
And so while I was out, I was cognizant of the fact that mom and dad couldn't leave the house to go enjoy their photography because they may have come in contact with somebody and brought this disease back home. So I knew that I had a better opportunity to get in and out of my building, to get in and out of my neighborhood and remain safe. I wasn't not concerned about my health. I wasn't coming in contact with people.
Yeah.
I was avoiding contact with people. But I've shot the sunrise forever. It's my point of view from home is I see the sunrise at 4:30 in the morning. I'm starting to see what it's going to look like, and I'm deciding. I curse myself every morning. You go back to bed, but no, like if I don't get this sunrise. Every sunrise is different, and it starts to develop early in the morning. You see the clouds, you know what's going to happen. So I would be like, let me go out and shoot the sunrise. And I would go down in my certain areas, and when I started to do it live, I would notice people would say, like, some people would say, you're crazy to be out there. Like it was like dinosaurs were coming to get me. And then other people were saying, thank you for being out there.
Yeah, I was one of the thank you people,
and people were saying, I had my coffee and I watched you do that this morning, and I enjoyed that. And, it definitely felt good to be doing it for someone else. My photography is for me. It's ultimately for me. I mean, if you get something out of it, I really do appreciate it tremendously.
Yeah.
But ultimately, I shoot every day. I tweak my camera every photograph. And
what camera do you use?
Oh, right now I'm using a Mike Falco relic. He had a Canon 5D that he was that beat the bones off of it, and he was looking to get rid of it. That's an upgrade for me because I shoot with all used bodies.
Okay.
I'll buy new lenses, but I shoot with all used bodies.
Right.
And I'm not the techie photographer. I mean, I shoot on manual. Like I said, everything is tweaked per shot. And, Mike was selling that. I went up. Mike was one of the people I did go up. He's living outside of the city now. So I went up to see him, and he was like, I got this body. I don't know if I want to sell it. I was like, all right, how much do you not want to sell it for? And I said, okay, I'll buy it from you for the price you don't want to sell it for.
Yeah, I know he's kind of like your mentor in a way because I saw some amazing photos that he took using a pinhole camera, and they were like reenactments of the Civil War.
Civil War.
Oh my God!
Yeah, the minute you think you're good, go look at Michael Falco's work and say to yourself, oof. And he'll go out now with a pinhole camera. His brother Henry is a carpenter. Henry make him these little pinhole boxes, and Michael will go out, figure out the math, the time, to this, and put it up on a tripod, and he'll take his pictures, and you'll just be blown away.
Yeah, beautiful.
There's no focusing. It's really amazing. He'll go out, whereas
you can't focus pinhole. It's just like the shot.
Just shoot.
Yeah.
He'll go out and take his 3 shots in 12 hours, whereas us with digital would click.
Yeah, that burst.
Just shoot a whole bunch, and see where they land.
So do you remember what your first camera was that you bought?
It was my first camera. So my first camera, and I blame Michael for this. Michael and I went to high school together. We were very close then. We've been close throughout all these years, and I don't want to tell you, it's been 42 years.
Yeah.
So my first camera, I had a paper route, and I saw what Michael was doing, and I was like, I want to do that too. That's what I want to do. I had family. Everybody in my family can draw. Everybody's got artistic talent. I've got nothing. I can't draw a circle. And so I saw what Michael was doing. I said, that's what I want to do. And down in the plaza, J.C. Penney Plaza, if you're old like me, on Forest Avenue, there was actually a pawn shop down there.
Oh, no, really?
Yeah, and PAWN. And so I went with my paper route money, and I went in there, and there's a guy behind the counter looking to sell whatever he had. And I was like, what do you got? What do you got for this much? And he said, for $90, I bought a Minolta SRT 101, 35 millimeter. And he's like, but wait a minute, it comes with these too. And there were like 12 lenses in a box.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, all right. So, you know, Bresson says that your first 10,000 photos are terrible. Mm-hmm. I can tell you that's true. Because
10,000, I can't even imagine. But
and now with digital, if you learned on digital and you're shooting on digital,
yeah,
your first 40,000 are trash.
Yeah,
you know, yeah, there's going to be images that the way I learned that I was doing better, I would hand somebody in the family or a friend, my pack of photos, and if they burned through them like this and put them back, I knew I didn't capture anything. But as they started
now, was that camera like a roll that you had to take out and get developed?
You had to take it up, get developed. There were places on Staten Island that would do it, but you know, initially you blame the developer for your poor photos. Yeah. So now you're taking your poorly shot photos to the city to spend more money to see how bad your photos are. So it would cost me $26 a roll. I'd go back in a week and they would be trash.
But did you love that though? I mean, like I remember when you used to wait to like a week to get your photos, and then you were so excited to see them.
See what I got. And like, oh, I know. But each time, the way with digital right now, you click a photo, you're like, oh, I know what I did wrong.
Yeah. With
film, it was you had to wait the week and say, that's what I did wrong. Now I'm cognizant of that. I'm going to try something differently. I remember the first person who told me, well, if you take up the roll a little bit less in the beginning, you may get an extra 2 shots at the end. So out of a roll of 36, you may get 38. I was on my honeymoon and I was up to like 42. And I said, oh, it never took up.
Yeah.
So those, I will tell you, those were the very best photos I've ever taken in my life.
Wow.
But were never exposed.
Yeah.
But coming home from your honeymoon, you got 14 rolls of film at, I'm telling you, like 20 some odd dollars a roll, and you come back and...
Well, when the digital age came into play, I know a lot of people were upset about it because they thought it would take away from what a photo is all about.
Yes.
I mean, how do you feel about that?
I don't disagree whatsoever. I remember my ex-wife buying me my first. It was a Canon 10S, and I was like, thank you.
Yeah.
You know, it was like, but. As it really, if you cannot become a better, and I'm not knocking anybody, if you cannot become a better photographer using digital, where you could see what you just shot, then you're not doing it right.
Right.
Look at every shot you're taking. Look at how you expose something. Take another shot of it. Look what you've kept in the image, what you could have left out of the image. So digital really gives you that, whereas film was like, I don't know what I got.
Yeah.
There's a lot of rolling the dice. You know,
yeah.
But
it was exciting in a way. It's like back then, you know, like the digital age has really thrown me a loop too. Because remember when letter writing was fun and you'd wait for the mail to come to get your letter and
putting a stamp on.
Yeah, I mean it's just like it's a whole different kind of feeling of excitement.
Sure.
And you know, I always felt like photography, the art of photography, is kind of the same way.
Right.
You know.
I mean, the reason why I buy a lot of used bodies is because there's a lot of people who chase technology. Mm-hmm. So you're chasing technology.
Yeah.
If you're not getting good photos out of this, but your friend is getting good photos out of that, go buy that $5,000 body because that's going to take better photos.
Yeah.
You know, it's like me buying a better stove. My food is going to stink.
Yeah.
You know, it's just that simple.
So let me ask you, now, I know you for your landscape photography and stuff. Do you do studio photography?
So during COVID, you know, the one thing I'll tell you is that the hardest thing to do is put a camera in someone's face. And when I would photograph people in the city, I would make sure they were walking. I could tell you I have thousands of photos of people walking away from me.
Yeah.
Because it's easier than letting them see me take a photo of them.
Uh-huh.
So during COVID, I'm challenging people to do this and do that. And I said, I have to challenge myself with something. And I found somebody on Instagram I had been following, and she had amazing photos of her name is Dolly. She had amazing photos taken of her and pin-up stuff like that. And I said, I really want to do that. I really want to do that. And at this point, I'm a 53-year-old child saying I really want to do that. And I reached out to her, and I said, hey, any chance you'd be willing? Absolutely, great. I said, I've shot landscapes forever. I'd love to put somebody in my landscapes. Absolutely, great. I finished the text, and I said, oh, Lord, how am I going to do this? I can't do this. I don't know what I'm doing. So like 3 days before I'm supposed to meet with her, I text her or inbox or whatever it was, and I said, I'm not going to be able to do it. Something came up. I quit. I gave up. So then I had to sit with myself and say, why did you say that?
You're your own worst enemy.
The two things on my shoulders.
Yeah.
I speak to myself. So I reached back out to her. I said, hey, any chance you'd be willing? She said, absolutely. She said, but can I just say something? I said, yeah. She said, if you ever cancel on me again, you can go F yourself. But she used the real word.
Yeah.
And I said, okay, that makes sense. So she and I set up a plan where we're going to meet. She gave me this location. I got there early. Photographers arrive early, stay late.
Yeah.
That's it. Always arrive early. Know where you're going to shoot. I got there early. I didn't like the location she picked. I drove a half a block. I said, wow, look at this spot. This is fantastic. I had no idea what she was going to wear. And so I got there. There was no planning like that.
Where was it, outside?
It was outside.
Okay.
So I found this long track of dirt amongst wildflowers, and the sunlight was coming down. And I texted her. I said, I have another location. It's about half a block away from there. Same idea, but the sun is hitting better. And she said, fine. She pulled up, and I looked at her, and I looked at where I selected. They matched perfectly, having not known what she was going to wear.
Yeah, that's weird.
And the thing about digital photography, so now I'm not totally comfortable, but it's like just walk that path, turn around, let me get these shots, stand amongst the leaves, the brush, the trees, the wildflowers. And I snap. And then I was done. And I said, I showed her the pictures. She said, wow, these are beautiful. The one thing I like to do is shoot in camera as much as possible. I have no ability with Photoshop. I'm afraid of Photoshop. I use Lightroom.
So you, like whatever you set up, that's what you use?
I try to. Listen,
okay.
There's tweaks, and I'm not going to lie, there's tweaks in light. There were tweaks in the darkroom, right? My images in the darkroom weren't as beautiful they were far more beautiful than my images in the camera. So it's the same thing now. And it took me a while to accept and appreciate that. And anybody who's using Photoshop is like, I bow to them. I love to see what people are doing. I wish I had that ability, but I don't think I'll ever do that.
Well, there's an art in itself too with that.
Sure.
And there's always been a controversy about like tweaking your photos, and some people like what was it they don't there's part of the group that doesn't appreciate photographers who actually manipulate photos, and then there's another part that call it art.
Everybody likes hot dogs or hamburgers.
Right.
It's your art.
But some amazing stuff
people
does
blow
come
me
out
away
of
with the
it.
stuff they do. It's really beautiful. So anyway, in shooting her, I showed her the pictures, and I went home and I uploaded them, and I was happy. I was ecstatic that I was able to connect with somebody. I looked at the images. I shot for 23 minutes from start to finish. And I shot a lot, and I kind of rushed myself. She and I have become like very, very close friends from that, and she has introduced me to other people that I photograph, and the art that I make with her has introduced us to other people, and other people have come forward.
That's fantastic.
And the most beautiful thing I could do now is photograph someone who was reluctant to be photographed, and then have them look at the back of the camera and sometimes cry. Sometimes say, oh my God, I'm beautiful.
Wow.
And none of this is for money. This is just, it keeps me busy. It keeps me, it teaches me. anytime with your camera in your hand, you need to be learning about it.
So I mean, you're talking now about being an artist, a true artist.
I don't like the word. I'm sorry.
Well,
it's so hard to accept that.
It is.
Yeah.
It's hard to accept,
Right.
but and for me too.
Right,
I
of
mean,
course.
but you
But
are
you're an
definitely
artist.
a creative.
Okay.
And if you look back at your life, what was the point in your life that you said, I want to do photography?
Again, I have cousins that are phenomenal artists. They can give them anything that leaves a mark anywhere, and it's going to be art, and it's beautiful. I just, I saw things, and I couldn't unsee them. That's the curse of being a photographer.
Yeah.
Is that you'll see something, you say, wow, that is beautiful. Some of the most beautiful photos I've ever taken have been with my eyes.
Well, see, and that's why I'm asking.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody has this
Right,
this
right,
innate
right.
ability to
Right.
see visual things
Sure.
behind a camera.
Sure.
I mean, there's a skill to it, but there's also, I feel like sometimes you're just born with it. And
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, anytime I travel with somebody, I'll stop and I'll take a picture and I'll show them the back of the camera. And I didn't even see that. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
Sometimes I wish I didn't see it. It's like, my son went to Penn State, and I would drive home.
Great school.
It's
Great college.
phenomenal
Yeah.
school. It's 4.5 hours away from here. It took
I've
me
been
11
there.
hours.
Yeah.
I would take 11 hours to come home from 4.5 hours away. And
Yeah.
driving alone, I'll just pull off. Thank
Beautiful.
the Lord for Waze, because I'll drive and drive and drive, photograph barns.
And in the fall time, oh my God, it's
So
gorgeous.
beautiful.
Yeah, it really
so
is.
life is outside. So don't,
Yeah.
I mean, if you're shooting in a studio and it's working out for you, phenomenal.
Yeah.
But
So
yeah.
have you traveled around the world at all?
Nope. Nope.
Just
nope.
thought I'd throw it out there. I
I-
haven't been around.
My world is the North Shore, predominantly. Sometimes
Wait.
I've actually been out to the West Shore and the South Shore too. It's nice. There's nice people out there. It's
Yeah.
nice out there.
Yeah.
But
So
I-
you're a creature of habit?
I'm a creature of habit. I'm also a creature. I fit my time in when I can. I've been to Ireland, but the 3 times I've been to Ireland, I'm the only one in the car who could drive stick shift. So you can't be the photographer and the driver. So you shoot when you can.
How'd you get I mean, I can drive stick shift
Yeah,
too, but how
I
did you
still
get it?
drive
That's
stick.
all they have over there, stick shift cars?
Yeah, the first time I went with my ex-wife, and she got back out of the car and she walked into, and she said, "No, we want an automatic." He said, "Well, great. Call us back. We'll have one in 6 weeks for you." It's like that's what you get,
Wow.
Which is not bad, but you're on the opposite side of the car, driving the opposite.
Well, that would freak me out.
That's a little
The
fun.
stick shift
Yeah.
one, but
Right.
wait, is the stick shift on the opposite
The
side
stick
then?
shift is in your left hand.
Yeah, that would
All
be
your
weird
pedals
too.
are the same, and
Yeah.
you're on the other side of the car.
Yeah, that's weird.
Yeah.
That would be
Yeah.
a little challenging, definitely.
Yeah, and the cars are passing you. You're looking at the driver as he's flying by you. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, but it doesn't
Yeah.
leave room for photography. And the roads in Ireland are extremely narrow,
Hazardous.
so you can't pull over and jump out and take a picture. So
Yeah.
it's just drive along, and
Well, they're like on cliffs and stuff.
there's lots of
right?
cliffs. There's
Yeah.
lots of cows and lambs and sheep and everything else like that. So it does. I've taken a lot of photographs in Ireland.
So you're gripping the wheel,
you
trying
get-
to
yes, Don't believe me. That I bought stick shift so that I wouldn't text.
Oh.
But there are times when I'm driving upstate alone, and statute of limitations, I'll be heading down a country road, and I'll get myself in the gear I want to get in and shoot out of the
Yeah.
front window.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful, and the driver's view is a different way of looking at things too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
what's next for you? I mean, do you have any plans, like projects or anything
no,
that you're interested
I
in?
kind of run from projects, to be honest with you. I've had some really great friends put together gallery shows and things like that. It's when you I'm not playing modest here. It's it comes very naturally to me to photograph. I love photographing. There's hundreds of thousands of photos people have never seen that I've taken, but to have me pick which one is the best, which one I like, which one I want to print, which one is putting me in an uncomfortable position. So even when the Advance had their story, they said, "Well, we want you to send." I said, "I'm not helping you whatsoever with your story." I said, "I'm not supplying you any photographs," and they grabbed stuff off my Instagram and
Yeah.
what have you. And that whole thing was uncomfortable to me, because the best photographer, as I said in that article, the best photographer on Staten Island right now hasn't shown their photos. or is afraid to show their photos, or is photographing quietly, and the best photographer is maybe 12 years old and just got a camera for Christmas. Best photographer.
Interesting.
I met a woman. We had an event down in Irby, and this woman came in, and she was very reluctant to show her photos, and they were all printed, and they were in an old Ilford box, and she opened them up, and there's Mick Jagger and Bianca Jagger and Studio
Wow.
54, and
Wow.
and I'm looking through all these photos. I said, "Who are you?"
Yeah.
And she said, "Oh, I just, I had a camera back then." And she said, "I haven't shot since digital." I said, "You need to be out with a camera. Your work is phenomenal. It's beautiful."
Yeah.
So these are the best photographers. We see what I put on Facebook. We see what I put on Instagram. We're not seeing what other people aren't sharing, And my son, as a kid, one day said to me, "Dad, you want to hear me play Under the Bridge by the Red Hot Chili Peppers?" He had a new guitar. I said, "Yeah." I said to myself quietly, I said, "Here's where I'm going to hear the very worst version of Under the Bridge."
Yeah.
He's 12 years old, and I walked in there, and he's playing it well, and I reach and I grab my cell phone, and he said, "What are you doing?" I said, "I'm going to videotape this." He goes, "Why?" And then show it to people and then post it. I said, "You're going to be the greatest guitarist that no one ever heard of." And my son at some point said to me, "What are you doing with your photos? Why aren't you sharing them with people? Why aren't
Yeah.
people seeing what you're doing?"
Yeah.
And
Well,
the student became the teacher.
Yeah.
Because initially I'm posting BlackBerry photos in whatever year that was, and people were saying, "This is beautiful." I was like, "That's not beautiful. I have photos that I shoot." And reluctantly, eventually I said, "Well, here's a photo I took. Here's a photo I took." And when you look back, what I shot 10 years ago is junk. It's garbage. Hopefully what I'm shooting now is garbage in 10 years.
Yeah.
And that's photography. That's art, right? Don't stop.
Well, I think you always learn, from
Yeah.
what you do. One of my favorite times of yours was, and I didn't mean to be like a voyeur or anything like that, but when you're out in your kayak
Yeah.
and you're shooting photos, and I'm like, now that's when I said, "What is he crazy?"
Yeah.
Because you're in a
And
little
your answer
kayak
was?
with, and I'm worried about is the camera going to get wet? Is he going to turn over?
So I keep a dry bag right between my
Oh.
legs, but it doesn't. It's just the same. It's like you still have to be careful. I suggest to people, if you want to be a kayaker, be a kayaker.
Yeah.
If you want to be a photographer, be a photographer. But be a better kayaker if you want to bring your
Yeah.
camera. Get really good at kayaking.
Yeah.
The camera can be replaced.
Yeah.
You can't. So I know friends who are like, "Yeah, I want to bring my camera out. I just got a kayak. I want to bring
It's
my camera
scary.
out." Like, learn to kayak.
Yeah.
I mean, the Staten Island kayakers are out all the time. Go out with them, learn to kayak. But there's nothing more beautiful than going out in the morning, putting your kayak on the water and going out and just watching that sun. And we live in a beautiful place. It's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
it's not wildlife. It's not,
Yeah.
it's not the Serengeti.
I was recently down at Ocean City, Maryland, and we watched the sun rise over the ocean, and there's nothing like that visual. It's
No.
just the colors,
Yeah.
and it's beautiful,
And it
it's so
changes
quiet.
second by second by
Yeah.
second. It's like,
Yeah.
It is.
It's fast.
Quiet.
It is fast.
So again, that's something. If you find, so people say, "Well, don't worry, because the sunrise is at 6:21 tomorrow." I'm like, "Great, I'll be there 5:30." Like,
It's quick.
why? Because you'll actually see it develops.
Yeah.
And then once it's up, and so is the rest of the world.
Yeah.
When I'm up, the rest of the world isn't up. There's that errant person walking by, or a
Yeah.
bicycle going by, or something like that. But we don't know how many of those we're going to get, right?
Well,
I don't mean to
as
sound
many as
depressing.
Yeah.
Try to capture as many as possible.
Yeah.
Sunsets too. Sunsets are beautiful also.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, look, Sean, I really appreciate what you do and your humbleness about your art form. I'm so impressed with your photos and even more so when you're out there sharing and talking to us during COVID. And I just want you to know I'm a fan.
I appreciate that. I've long been a fan of both of you.
Yeah, and someday,
Yeah.
maybe I'll get to twist your arm and you can bring some photos out and put it up in our gallery.
We'll do it.
We would
We'll do it.
love to
We'll
have
do it.
some of your
We'll
photos
do
up
it.
there for
It
an
takes arm
exhibit.
twisting, but I'll do it.
Yeah. And for all of you out there, thank you for tuning in. And until next time, we'll see you then.